Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Insigma Theory, and today I'll be bringing to you the semifinals for the After Hours Gaming League. Game 1 of Epic versus Amazon. Here we go, and the picks and bans have actually started out already. Elise, Rise, and Volibear banned out for the side of Epic. Meanwhile, Vayne, Twisted Fate, and Rumble banned out for Amazon. And wow, they're just flying through these. Alright, so we got Hecarim, Caitlyn, and Sona locked in for Epic. We're going to see Tristana, Singed, Xin Zhao, and Lux for the side of Amazon. So looking at that, I mean, obviously they're running Singed top lane on top of that. But whoa! Taking a look here on Epic, they've got Kale and Vlad, it looks like, are being hovered over. Something we haven't... I gotta be honest, this is something I haven't seen, specifically in After Hours Gaming League, a lot lately. Vlad's usually not on that top priority pick, and Kale is kind of one of those. I'm a little surprised she made it that far down, but we're gonna see how that turns out anyways. And last but not least, we got Lulu locked in for Amazon. So just taking a look across the board, having a Hecarim jungle is gonna be pretty strong. Let's just put that out there right now. Hecarim is one of those champions, especially on the live patch. He's just really, really strong. I mean, can we not say that? Obviously, that he's gonna be one of those champions that is really one of those you have to watch out for and entirely. And being honest here, seeing what we've seen so far in the After Hours Gaming League, Epic's jungler is actually pretty darn good. The A League for After Hours Gaming League is reserved for people that are higher rated, that are either high gold or above. So I mean, obviously they're not professional level players, but these are people that do just play League of Legends in their free time, especially for a company. So I mean, Hecarim is a very, very strong pick, but as we've seen, Xin Zhao works very well, especially against someone like Hecarim. He's got a lot of team fight ability, and on top of that, his ganks, they may not be, I'm gonna run at you from across the map and still make it before the ward sees me, but they're still very, very strong, and especially when you've got such a strong top lane pick like Singed, and we could see some lane swapping coming out. Now, Singed would have a little bit of trouble versus, say, like a 2v1 lane, but they could end up spinning things an entire way around, like sending, say, Lux a 1v2, or just saying, you know what, Singed might have some trouble no matter what lane he went against, so maybe we could switch a lane out, because taking a look here, Singed could have a problem with the laning phase. He's got to go against either Vlad or Kale. Both of them are very valid top lane or mid laners. I mean, obviously, I would expect to see Vlad top lane, as Black Mamba is sort of the top lane for Epic, but again, we could see lane swaps come out. It's not something that we haven't seen, especially in the After Hours Gaming League. We've seen teams run 2v1 mid, or say switch it up and say run the 2v1 top and send the solo laner down in the bottom lane. We have seen it. It would be a little bit surprising, seeing as how we're on the blue side, and you generally don't want to swap yourself because you lose the golems and you lose sort of early dragon control, but it's not unheard of. And throwing somebody off or throwing a team off, especially this early on in a best of 3, could be the key to taking it home. But the picks for Amazon are pretty solid. They've got Lux and Lulu. That's a lot of both laning poke and late game poke, and they've got a lot of team fight ability. Sort of everyone on top of on the side of Amazon has the ability to not only reposition themselves in a team fight, but to really zone and reposition the enemy team, let alone. Between, you know, Lulu having her ultimate, the Glitter Lance that comes out on top of that, Xin Zhao ulting people away, a Singed Fling, they've got a lot of crowd control. And with Singed running teleport, he may not have to win his lane. So, I mean, it's it's not one of those matches where you see the picks and you go, oh, well, this team is obviously going to win. It's very one-sided on the picks. Looking at the composition and how team fights would go, it actually could go the other way around. But we're going to get into the game, and this happens every time. But we're going to get into the first game today of the After Hours Gaming League. This is the semifinals for Epic versus Amazon. The team that wins this gets to go on towards the finals and gets to fight out to see who. Whoa there, really? I thought Riot fixed this. I thought Riot fixed this. Okay, but we're gonna see. So the team that gets to go on and win in the finals wins $5,000 to go to their charity of choice. So these teams are fighting for it. It's not, I mean, we could say it's just a bunch of people doing some, after hours games like softball or volleyball or like a baseball team for your company. I mean, yeah, it is along those lines, but they are fighting along the lines to win something. There is an objective outside of it other than just the win title. So the pressure is starting to really hit. I mean, we're out of that bottom picks where there's a lot of teams and only a few could go on. There's really only so many chances they have now. These are the semifinals for it. So especially to see some teams like Epic and Amazon come this far. Amazon is fantastically improved. If I gotta say so, throughout the season 3, they've just done absolutely phenomenal since when I've first seen them. And Epic has just been really strong all throughout. But let's get into the game and start talking about the characters and their champions. On the blue side for Epic, we are going to see the Anomaly in the jungle with Hecarim. We've got Dequarius playing 80 carry as Caitlyn. Meanwhile, you've got Raffles in the bottom lane support as Sona. Black Mamba 1-2-2-1 is going to be top lane with Vladimir, and he did this to me beforehand. It's Waif as mid lane Kale, it looks like. Meanwhile, in the top right side for Amazon, we've got Tristana being played the AD carry by AHGL. DJC 92 is going to be top lane with Singed. Boli is going to be in the jungle with Xin Zhao, where Razion is going to be mid lane with the Lux. And last but not least, we've got Rolante down in the bottom with Lulu. Wards coming out from both teams. Looks like some aggressive warding coming out a little bit early on from Epic. They're going to ward the entire top side as well as this tri-bush down here. So they do not want to get invaded on, and they're pretty well covered coming out across the map. They've even got everybody in this bush just in the off chance that Amazon does decide to invade. But it looks like Amazon went down here in the bottom side, kind of the off tri-bush. This isn't a bush we usually spend a lot of time focusing on, but it's actually something I want to point out from these teams. Amazon actually went down here into this tri-bush because a lot of times when a blue side invades to the blue side jungle, blue buff jungle for the top side, usually what happens is they'll just either go straight to the blue buff or they'll come around here and they'll go up through the river and then in the backside of the blue. So when the entirety of Amazon sits here in that tri-bush right there, what happens a lot is they'd be able to actually come back around and team fight here, and Epic might have been out of place from that. But anyways, so we're going to see how the game starts out. Either way, Singe actually warding in his own tri-bush. Everyone playing pretty safe here. Lux even putting a very early ward down onto Race. So, no really early aggression coming out from either team. It looks like both jungles actually started out with smiteless pulls. And Hecarim actually started out on the red side. He's heading up towards the top, maybe for a gank in mid, or he could actually be going into the jungle to fight Boli here. Boli's actually getting pretty low from this red buff. Razion's coming up from behind with a gank, and he has to flash out. So Epic pulls the first summoner spell in the game now. They have burned mid lane's flash, and this is kind of one of those situations, especially for Hecarim. Usually when you have a Hecarim and he starts ganking, he generally doesn't stop ganking till the laning phase is pretty much over. because his ganks are that strong. But it looks like Boldy is setting up for a gank here, coming up towards the top side. Now, they did spot him go into that river, and Black Mamba, I'm sure, is aware that there's probably a Xin Zhao here. He goes straight onto it. Black Mamba 1-2-2-1 forced to burn the ghost this early on. And that was actually a pretty solid gank there by Bowling, even though he was actually going a little forward with that one and jumping straight onto Vlad. He actually did burn a summoner, so that's a pretty good spot to be in, especially when you're with a Singed, because you generally, when you play against a Singed as a Vlad, you got to be really, really aggressive, especially early on, because you really cannot handle all of the harassment that comes out onto it. Hecarim looks like he's setting up for a gank toward the top side. This is not warded, so he's not going to spot this. The anomaly goes in straight for it, but DJC just burning his ghost, staying very careful, does not want to get caught out. So, taking a look though, the Anomaly's speed buff with a devastating charge actually burned out before he got to lane. So he might have been actually pretty safe to not burn the ghost, but he had to just be really careful as he did not want to get caught out there. Remember, this is game one. This kind of does set the flow for all three games if it does go to that much. I mean, you can go on tilt pretty easy, and that is the sign of a good team, is being able to control the focus of how not only the first game goes, but the rest of them after that. When you do lose that first game, you know, everyone kind of does get into the situation where they're like, I don't really feel like we should have lost that. I kind of, you know, I'm a little frustrated. The sign of a good team is to be able to actually just get over that and move on and use that, you know, to kind of your advantage later on. But I mean, it's one of the skills is to be able to not get there in the first place. So they really don't want to have that one go on. We've actually just barely missing a light binding there. Getting out of that one pretty safely. Top lane though, Vlad here getting engaged on by Singe. Singe is starting to get pretty low into this lane, as now Vlad is starting to gain levels and a lot of harassment coming out as well. And this is kind of where Singe is going to start to fall behind, as Black Mamba is pushing and doing a lot of harassment at the same time. Meanwhile, Kale in the mid lane pushing up as well, kind of a result of using the Righteous Fury onto that side. Bully setting up here in the top lane for a gank, but he's kind of staying back as they do know that Tribush is warded. He could be going for a lane gank here. He's got to be pretty careful because this minion might spot him coming in. Not sure that it spotted him. Black Mamba's got to be really careful. Bully goes straight on to Vladimir. He's had to blow his pool, but the flash forward comes out from Bully. Just knocks him up at the right time for Singe to actually fling him back, and Black Mamba looks like he might go down. There it is. First blood goes to Team Amazon. 6 minutes and 30 seconds into the game, they are going to pick up the top lane kill. And Boldy looks like he's going down for an invade onto the jungle here. He puts down the ward at the blue buff about 30 seconds before it's about to respawn. The problem is that he's not really aware that that Hecarim started with the red buff, so it's actually going to start. It's actually going to respawn a little bit later. Meanwhile, down at the bottom side, each guy was taking a little bit of harass here from this Caitlyn Sona lane. And this could be a pretty dangerous lane for Tristana. Just taking a look at the CS count, we've got 55 CS on Caitlyn to 51 on Tristana. Now, Tristana's not going to start to outrange Caitlyn for a little bit of time. So Caitlyn could get some pretty solid poke out and really control the flow of this fight. But since they're kind of even in CS, we might see Tristana sort of start to gain a lead here pretty quickly. But across the map, we're going to take a look at mid lane as well. 53 CS on Lux to 29 on Kale. So Lux is starting to get a pretty solid lead in the mid lane. And that's kind of, that's going to start to get pretty dangerous when it comes to team fights, as that Lux poke is going to be pretty maniacal when it comes to it. So Black Mamba trading out a little bit with Singed up in the top lane. Blue has now just respawned. And Kale looks like she's going in for some harass on the mid side. Boldy comes up from behind, possibly dissuade this fight. And the blue has just respawned. Wards come out, so they are gonna see that they are heading towards the blue side. Black Mamba taking a little bit of fight there from Singed, and they might end up having to give up this blue. Rajon actually getting engaged here on the middle. Ignite goes down, but he's going to flash out and stay alive onto this side. Meanwhile, that is going to leave a 2v3 on the blue buff. Kale ult comes out, saving Vlad some of the damage. DJC92 gets focused down with the ult from Black Mamba, and there goes a kill for Epic, bringing the score to a 1-1. 8 minutes and 30 seconds into the game. Rajon is actually here on the backside. He actually pops the ult and just barely picks up the blue buff. That ward on the side actually was able to see that. Huge ult there from Rajon, actually picking that one up. Even though they lost a member there, that is going to set Kale pretty far behind from that one. The Anomaly's heading up here to steal some of the race. The Lux, Lucent Singularity is actually going to spot that out. They're not going to straight up fight for that. But Hecarim was pretty low, especially close to Bolney. But pretty solid game coming out here from Amazon as well. So it is 1-1, 9 minutes into the game, 10,900 gold to 10,900. We are dead even. Even with the creep score differences between mid lane, 68 on Lux to 46 on Kale. We are seeing, though, Caitlyn is starting to pull ahead, a little bit ahead of Tristana. Now, she did come back to lane with a BF sword, but the problem is that since Tristana is one of those champions that doesn't have any abilities that scale with attack damage, she's straight up rushing the Blade of the Ruined King, which is going to give her some mid lane, or mid-game, some mid-game, like, presence. She is going to be able to do some damage without having too many items straight off the bat. So, looks like DJC92 doing the infamous Singe proxy farm, just farming the lane before it even gets to the turret. And that's pretty much where Singe is going to be at. So he did pretty good in the laning phase, staying this close up to it. Usually, a lot of times, Singe has a lot of trouble keeping up with the harassment this early on from Vladimir, but he made it just long enough for him to get his ultimate and get the catalyst out, so he's got a lot of sustain now. He's pretty much just going to farm up the minion wave and then leave, basically. He's not really trying to stay and fight Vlad out straight up. Bully here tries to take out the ward before it goes away. It's not able to get it, but he did get a couple of shots off on it. So, leaving the mid lane, has a couple of daggers, going for attack speed. Looks like a Malady might come out pretty early, but we'll see how this one turns around. When Rajon gets ulted on by the Anomaly, meanwhile Bully just completely goes on to Kale, pops the ulti, completely avoiding the ult there from Lux. The Anomaly able to pick up a kill onto a Rajon. Weave in the backside, though, with a red buff, gets that ticked off. And Bully's able to pick up a kill there, so that was a 1-for-1 trade in the mid lane, but Singe did have to burn his teleport. And Black Mamba's up there in the top lane, pushing it pretty hard, but they are going to send them both up there towards the top side. Now, that is the Singe teleport down, and meanwhile, bottom lane, Epic is going to pick up their first turret, so that is going to put the lead onto Epic's side, 14,500 gold to 14,000 almost there from Amazon, so it's a 600 gold lead at this point for Epic, which isn't that big of a lead, especially 12 minutes into the game. That's barely, an item, or one of the items to make one of the bigger items. Like, that's not even a pickaxe. That's a little bit over like a longsword, or a cloth armor at that. But, so we're gonna see some of these team fights start out, I would assume, now that the bottom lane turret is gone. Epic's probably gonna send their bottom lane somewhere else, obviously. Possibly they could even be switching out the Vlad and the Caitlyn Sona lane and sending that one 2v1 top, but we'll see how this one turns out. Bully, though, sets up for a gank on the top side. Black Mamba walks straight into the bush onto Xin Zhao. Ult comes out from Vladimir, but there's not enough damage to tick that one off. Meanwhile, though, he is going to actually barely make it out alive with a ghost onto that fight. And Kale sets up here to turn this one around, but it looks like they're just going to take that burn of the summoner and just go straight back. And they actually did pretty good for that fight, even though they didn't quite get the kill onto Vlad. They had to be really careful, as if Singe had stayed any longer while Vlad's ult was up, he actually might have gone down from that one. So they did actually engage that one really good. But we're seeing this one come out. A couple of wards set up here in the blue buff, one straight up for when the other one despawns, as they want to keep sight of that one at all times, especially if Lux can pull off another laser and steal it. That'd be pretty solid, and Amazon would have themselves in a pretty good location. Now, we are 16,400 to, or 16,400 to 15.7 in favor of Epic. So they've still got a lead, but it's not really that big to work out. Stinger came out on the side for Kale, actually. On to that one, I did forget that the 2 daggers build into that straight up, but it's definitely a solid item. So, Hecarim going up there towards the blue buff. They do not want to lose this one once again. Bolly just straight up tears it down, picks up the blue buff, and he actually flashes right over the wall. Ults Sona back, but the Anomaly's going to ult himself over the wall to get on top of Bolly long enough for the stun from Raffles to come out. He is exhausted and just running for his life. Meanwhile, Kale is going to land the ulti onto Sona, and Bolly's just going to jump to a minion. The Anomaly actually gets hit by the Lux Binding and was not able to solidify the kill onto that one. Very solid play there coming out from Amazon, stealing yet another blue away from Epic. Meanwhile, though, Epic, though, now that they know that the jungler is really low, they are just going to go straight for Dragon. Bolly here coming in from the side. He wants to be really careful not to get caught out by Vlad. I think they are going to lose up this Dragon. First Dragon is going to fall to Epic. And the kill score is going to be 2-2, 14 minutes and 40 seconds into the game. But Epic is starting to get a bigger lead onto that one. 18,500 gold there from Epic to 17,200 from Amazon. So the lead is actually starting to be a pretty big difference now. Caitlyn came back to lane with the Bloodthirster onto this one. Meanwhile, Tristana has not finished the Blade of the Ruined King yet, but she does have her level 2 boots. So it looks like Epic is starting to get in a pretty good lead here. I'd be curious to see if they were gonna keep gaining the lead or just kind of keep it at 1,200 gold. Now that's not really a lot when it comes to a lead, but Bolly actually looks like he's taking his blue buff there. Oh no, there it is. Lux coming in from back, able to pick up the blue buff. But it looks like the 12,000 or the 1,200 gold lead. I mean, it's not really that big, but 15 minutes into the game, that could be the big difference between getting a huge snowball-y lead or kind of just keeping a little bit of an edge in a fight. Because you got to remember, they do have some pretty solid team fight on the side of Amazon. They may be behind, but if they can get a good team fight out and control it well, especially with a Lux using poke to sort of whittle Epic away when these fights happen, they could be pretty solid, even with an item deficit. Anomaly goes in for a gank on top of Rajon. Actually just goes up to straight burst him down. The Kale ult comes out to keep Anomaly alive a little bit longer. Singe teleporting into the mid lane to try to catch this one up. He does pop his ult to get close enough to Aquarius here. Gets flung back into the team. Raffles setting up a crescendo to keep him alive just barely, but DJC is just barreling down on top of it. He could actually make it out alive onto this one. The Lulu ult comes in, saving him just a little bit of time, and Rajon is able to pick up a kill onto Kale. So Amazon able to hold out another team fight. The Anomaly off in the side here could be in trouble. Just gets enough time to back out of that bush. And Epic is able to get out of that fight just barely, though. This is going to put the kill count at 2-4 in favor of Amazon. And that is going to be a pretty solid fight there on the side of Amazon. Now this is going to put the gold lead pretty much even across the board. We've got 21,000 to 20,800. So Amazon was able to pick up the very, very tiny gap there, or at least the pretty solid gap, and get a very tiny lead of their own of a little bit over 200 gold. So very well played there by Amazon, but Epic did kind of overextend with that Hecarim ult onto Lux, trying to pick something off here, but the Singe did have teleport and they were able to turn that fight around pretty quickly. So they are sending a few of the members from Epic to the mid lane. They might be looking to take this turret down, and Singe here has put some pretty solid pressure up on top. So they are going to have to send Hecarim back to sort of hold this one off. Lux ult coming out to just clear the waves. They do not want to lose this mid lane turret. They've already lost bottom side, so they do not want to lose mid lane turret because it's going to pretty much give full control of the map to Epic, and that's not where you want to be, especially at this point in the game. So it looks like Singed here up in the top lane working away at this turret. Hecarim just completely ignoring him, going for the creeps at that. And Singed here just going to back out, clearing the wave with his poison. Meanwhile, Amazon is holding this one off. This is gonna, if Epic doesn't make something happen here, this is gonna actually go in the favor of Amazon, because Singed can just work away at this turret, because Hecarim doesn't really have the clearing power that he needs. But it looks like they are sending Xin up at the top lane. You know, although he's taking a little bit of damage there from Singed. He could actually get caught out here by the Kale. The slow lands down on top of Bully. He is going to pop his ult to get anyone away. The Anomaly here just actually getting engaged on straight up by Xin Zhao. Ignite goes down onto Singed as well as the Vlad ultimate. There it is. DJC gets hit by the ace in the hole. DJC actually flings Black Mama back into his team, but it's just not enough for him to stay alive. Black Mama committing on top of Lulu, but it looks like you're just going to back out as well. Trist is now actually in the bottom lane, pushing up this turret. So they are pinging for it straight go down, and Epic here is just committing in this mid lane turret. They know that they got to pull something out of the hat here to close the gold gap that they just lost from that bottom side turret. So mid lane turret is going to go down now, and all of Epic is pretty low, so I can't imagine they would push too much further. And a ping did go down on this bottom side turret, so AHGL could actually maybe get something out of this one, but no, he's just going to take the safe route, back out, and just force the fight to actually go in their favor. Actually, even with how that fight went and them getting picked off, since they were able to pick up bottom lane turret, they've actually kind of evened the map control out. So just taking a look, this is actually now straight down the line of the river, or no, because mid lane turret did go down. So I don't know, actually. I mean, this is going to give Epic some pretty solid control of the map now that mid lane turret and bottom side turret is down. But the problem is that since their own bottom side turret is down as well, it does kind of sort of split that up and not give them as much map control as they wanted. So back in the mid lane, we've taken a bit of damage here. He did pick up his Haunting Guise after the Gnasher's Tooth. So he's got some magic penetration as well. So he's going for a little bit of AP hybrid. As it seems, we're AHGL trying to get a binding on top of Hecarim. Hecarim, though, hasn't really picked up any major items just yet, and kind of by 21 minutes, usually a Hecarim has some pretty solid items, either the Spirit of the Lizard at that, or something along the lines of a little bit more tankiness. I mean, he did pick up a Giant's Belt, but without the rest of, you know, either a Sunfire Cape or either a Frozen Mallet or Warmogs, he really doesn't have the tankiness he needs to sort of deal with the entirety of Amazon. Meanwhile, Singed up in the top lane, pushing that lane up pretty hard, does have his teleport. There it goes down. Hecarim's able to pick up the dragon onto Epic's side. Black Mamba here up in the top alone in this fight. Rolante here gets hit by the ultimate there from Anomaly, but that's not quite enough. Weef is going to go down as well. Amazon just completely dominating this fight, picking up 3 kills so far. Raffles is stuck on his own, and Tristana in the backside was able to pick up Hecarim. So that was a 4 for, well, basically Dragon. Or actually, Rolante went down as well. So that was a 4 for 1 in favor of Amazon. And this could actually lead to mid lane turret going down as well. So they did lose Dragon from that fight, and that is going to give Epic still a kind of a lead. But I mean, picking up this mid lane turret is actually going to even that out just a little bit and put Amazon 2,000 gold ahead of Epic, and that is going to start to solidify some map control as well, because of how the sort of jungle works. Now this entire bottom side of the map is pretty much no man's land. You know, you do not want to get caught up there, and everyone's got to just slam down wards pretty much as far as the eye can see. I mean, just taking a look here at the ward coverage, you know, the side of Epic, they've got the entire river warded and some of their own jungle. Meanwhile, they've got the river on the side of Amazon warded up, as well as a couple of key spots for the entirety of, you know, Epic's jungle. So they are kind of... Oh, this game is just going so much back and forth. 8-4 in favor of Amazon. 31,200 to 29,100. They're on to this game. So, Rajon back at the mid lane now has a Rabadon's death cap, and Lux is going to start to deal a lot of damage. He even picked up a Cage's lucky pick. Looks like for the Morellonomicon. And he's going to start, once these team fights start to go in Amazon's favor, he's going to be able to poke things out. And when I mean that, like, they're basically not going to want to be able to engage unless half of Epic is you know, pretty low. So this is going to be a really close game. Black Mamba 1221 might get caught out here on the top side. This turret is pretty low. He doesn't really have enough hold from it. Bully just attacks the turret straight up. They're not going to completely engage onto it with the Vladimir ult down. Black Mamba actually pulls out and stays alive. He did lose his turret, however, but I'm pretty sure that might have gone down without Bully. But, I mean, it was just that was a for sure thing. I mean, Vlad can clear waves pretty fast, and the turret did have about 300 health there. So Singe might have been able to tank out that one, but they were able to just completely get the turret and then sort of establish control that way. So Amazon doing some pretty solid stuff, not going for any really big aggressive sort of, you know, greedy, we might, you know, get caught here and lose these fights. They're actually going for really solid stuff. Raffles actually gets completely engaged on by Region, and AHGL tries to crescendo over the wall to hit someone to save himself, but he was able to get out alive, running away and flashing over that wall. And Epic is kind of losing control of this fight here. They've got to be pretty careful. DJC up at the top lane, taking a little bit of harass from Vlad. Now that he has Leandry's Torment here, he's going to start chunking away at the health of Singed. But he's got to be pretty careful, too, because that Singed Poison is going to deal a lot of damage as well, since Singed does have his Rod of Ages out. And it looks like he's going for a Frozen Heart as well. Meanwhile, down on the bottom side, AHGL pushing this one up. He does have his Blade of the Ruined King, and he's starting to work towards Infinity Edge. Or, yeah, the Infinity Edge just now bought. Black Mamba getting flung over the side into his into Xin Zhao, but DJC is just going to try to disengage the fight as long as possible. So Bully picks up the blue buff. He's going to flash over the side. And Amazon, yet again, taking the blue buff away from Epic. Now, these aren't champions, like Vlad and Kale aren't champions that, you know, hard and fast need the blue buff. They're not it's not like denying an Anivia blue buff or a Cassiopeia blue buff or a Karthus blue buff at that. It's not so much on that, but it is it is something you still need, with Kale needing the cooldown reduction for his ultimate to come back up, and with everyone pretty much needing cooldown reduction on Epic just so that Black Mamba's ult can do quite a bit more damage. It still kind of hurts them, but it's not really the end of the world, as you would put it, for Epic. So, I mean, it's not really that big, but at the same time, it's of course still pretty massive that Amazon has pretty much gotten just about every single blue buff away from Amazon. So I gotta imagine they're doing pretty good so far. I mean, the gold count alone, 37,200 gold to 34,000 just about from Epic, it puts them at a pretty solid lead. And coming back from Epic having, you know, 1,000 gold lead, they're doing pretty darn good from the standpoint. But remember, this is a best of 3, so not only do they have to win this game, but they do have to win the next, and this could actually go on to the 3 games, because these teams are pretty evenly matched as the way this goes. So 27 minutes, 10 seconds into the game, 37,900 on Amazon to 34,500 for Epic. 8 kills to 4, 3 turrets to 2. And it looks like this dragon might go to Amazon, as not very many people from Epic are there to hold this one off. Just the Sona and the Hecarim, and they are going to get spotted out by the wards. So there it is. The dragon goes down to Amazon. So I believe this is actually the first dragon that they've picked up. Epic has gotten the other 2, if I remember correctly. It was either 2 or 1. But we'll see how this one goes. This game is just going back and forth so much. They're trying to trade the race as well. Bully was not able to pick that one up, but looks like Amazon here is starting to group up towards the mid and the bottom, try to hold this one off. Raffles takes a bit of damage there from Lux, and this is kind of what I was talking about. She did pick up the Morellonomicon, so she's got a lot of cooldown reduction there. She's actually got 40% with that blue buff, so she's got some pretty solid poke coming out from Lux, and this is kind of where they want to be. They want to be pressuring top lane, keeping Vlad away from the team. That way Singed can actually teleport to them, as well as they want bottom lane to be pushed up, so they might separate it even further. And then they've got the Lux laser to actually just completely control the flow of the fight, especially before the fight really even starts to happen. They can start whittling people down. Gets some snipe off onto Kale. Kale gets pretty low from that Lux combo, and she's going to have it in another 20 seconds. Meanwhile, down on the bottom side, AHGL is able to pick up a kill onto Caitlyn, and they're just going to straight up push this bottom lane turret. Meanwhile, Singed and Xin Zhao up in the top lane, forcing Vlad to kind of pull out, and Lux is in the mid lane as well. So they've got some really solid pressure coming out on all of the lanes right now. Bottom lane might actually go down, as Hecarim's the only one heading towards it to hold this one off. Back in the mid lane, Lux actually just completely blowing up Sona. It looks like, yeah, I mean, the laser did just go down. So Lux here is starting to really become a bit of an issue for Epic to handle, and her cooldown on her ultimate is only at 24 seconds, so she can really toss that thing every quarter of a minute, 4 times a minute. That's a pretty big deal coming out from a Lux laser. It does, let's see, it does like 700 and some odd damage after magic resist. I gotta imagine it does maybe around, depending around the magic resist, it maybe does around 600 to 700. In that range, but that's a pretty solid chunk of health, especially on someone like Sona, who that's pretty much half her health from the ultimate alone. And especially Caitlyn as well. She doesn't really have that much of a health pool either, but when you do have the tanks like Vladimir and Hecarim on your team, as well as a Kale ultimate, they might be able to hold this one off. But it's such a big deal for that Lux to have a really, really short cooldown on her ultimate and a lot of ability power. She's got 234 CS in the mid lane to 168 from Kale. It's pretty obvious that Lux, almost at 10,000 gold so far in the game, is starting to get pretty darn big. And let's not forget that Tristana, who has a Blade of the Ruined King and an Infinity Edge, who's also working towards a Phantom Dancer next. Amazon's got a really, really, really solid lead so far into the game. So looks like they're setting up for Dragon or Baron, and there's a ward here into the Baron pit that I don't know if they can actually spot here. Let's actually take a look. They actually cannot see this ward. I imagine if they just barely got around the corner, they'd be able to see this one out. But that is actually going to give Epic a chance for this fight, because since they're just waiting for Epic to come up to Baron and try to catch somebody out, I mean, they're trying to get some form of a lead into that aspect, but it looks like blue buff here could go down. Bully is over the side. He actually just smites a blue buff and takes it away from Kale. So that is another blue buff taken from Epic and given to Amazon once again. 10 kills to 4. Pretty solid lead of about 6,000 gold, or 7,000 at that, to Amazon. So they're in a pretty solid standpoint for this game. Now again, with champions like Hecarim, Kale, and Vladimir alone, especially with the Sona Crescendo, Epic might be able to turn around one of these fights, but it's got to go perfectly for them, especially now when they can't really get poked down by a Lux laser at that. So Lux actually doesn't have her own blue buff just yet. She's going to be able to pick that one up just now. But DJC92 actually has his teleport up as well, so he's going to start to split push and put a lot of pressure onto Epic to actually keep someone away from the team. And this might be just the thing that Amazon needs to sort of win this game out. They might want to engage here now that Caitlyn is kind of stuck in the bottom side, holding against Singed alone. Meanwhile, mid lane turret down to about 230 health. For Epic, they're kind of stuck on the back foot here, but they can't really do anything else. It looks like Amazon here is heading straight up for the Baron, and they actually just now spotted the ward into the Baron pit, and they stopped the Baron right afterwards. Now that Epic doesn't have vision of it, they got to be really, really careful here. And it looks like Amazon was trying to set up here for an ambush, and they just said, you know what, screw it, we can see them on the map. We're just going to go straight for Baron. Singed does have teleport as well. Epic is trying to be careful about coming up. Now they do see Singed in the bottom lane. They kind of have to commit to something here, but just being forward that much is sort of forcing Amazon to not straight up fight this one just yet. Now, Caitlyn, reminder, Caitlyn is still kind of stuck into this bottom side, but Singed is there as well, so Singed could teleport to the Baron, and Lux did keep, or Lulu did keep aggro on the Baron, so it didn't quite reset. Amazon's able to pick up the first Baron of the game, 33 minutes in, and this is going to be a pretty solid thing for them. I mean, Epic is, they were on the back foot before. They're under some pretty big trouble now. Lulu actually even has a Twin Shadows as well, so they've got a lot of engage on their team, as well as a lot of poke and a lot of disengage at that. So Epic's, they're just giving them such a hard time. Dragon goes down, and Amazon is just getting even more of a solid lead. It's 51,300 gold to Epic's 42,000, and it's just looking like a bit of trouble for Epic. This might actually not be their game. Now, we were talking about the picks phase of the two teams. It looked like, excuse me, it looked like Epic kind of had a little bit more of a solid laning phase, but there was just not enough they could capitalize on with their team. I mean, even with Vladimir, with his ultimate and the amount of harassment he does, even with Kayle, with the amount of control that Kayle boasts in a lane, especially against the Lux, they're not really able to really capitalize on anything that they have very strongly, especially since Singed took his teleport. It's just, they can't split push, they can't sort of outfight these games going. They can't really ambush as well as Amazon can, with a lot of their crowd control and a lot of their just straight up damage that they have. It's just, they're in such a bad spot. But it looks like Caitlyn down here in the bottom lane, although she is kind of stuck here, kind of holding against the Singed, she's able to farm up, and she's got some pretty solid items now. She does have her Last Whisper, her Phantom Dancer, and the Bloodthirster now, so she's got a little bit of damage, and she can really start to tank through or chunk through the armor of Xin Zhao and Singed. So she does have that ability, but the problem is that, Hecarim's not really tanky enough yet. I mean, he does have a Giant's Belt and a Glacial Shroud, and he does have the Spirit of the Elder Lizard, but he's not really that tanky yet. And Black Mamba, though he can do some pretty solid damage to, like Lux and to Tristana, he's not really, the kind of full-on damage that they need. They need some more damage outside of Vladimir to really make use of his ultimate, and Caitlyn may not be enough for this one, but Boley looks like he's getting engaged on here in the bottom side turret, trying to avoid the traps from that one. AHGL gets hit by his own as well. The Lux Laser comes out, puts Kayle at just under a quarter of her health, and they're going to have to back out from this one. Ace in the Hole comes out, trying to do some damage on to Xin Zhao. He does get hit by it, but he's still kind of in an okay spot. He's actually going to mid lane to kind of farm up a little bit of health onto this side. And they're putting some pressure onto the bottom as well. The Anomaly takes a bit of a hit there from the Loosened Singularity. And all of Amazon is setting up towards the mid lane once again. They might be trying to force another fight here. Now, they do have Baron, so they are pretty much all full up onto this one. Black Mamba and Waifu starting to get pretty low. They're going to have to back out, and this might actually be the turret, but it looks like they're going for the blue buff, and they're splitting up once again, so they're not able to kind of capitalize on several members of Epic backing out of this one. Oh, man. This is just going so much back and forth. So, it's just... Epic's in just such a bad spot, but Amazon's not really sort of capitalizing on any moment. It's... I don't really know where they can go from this side just yet. Alright, so top side turret now has actually gone down to minions, and this is starting to kind of lower the gap here between the two teams. But it's just going so much back and forth that there's really not a whole lot that either team can can do just yet. I mean, there's so many chances here that Amazon has to really just sort of barrel down and push a turret or push an inhibitor or get something outside of it. Anomaly here taking a bit of damage from the Lux laser combo, and this could actually be just what they need to work this one out. Now that Hecarim isn't in the front line anymore, Black Mamba kind of trading back and forth with Lux, and this does put bottom side turret at just under half health. The Anomaly coming back with the home guard boots. So he's at max health now, and they might be able to force something here, but Amazon is just going to take this time to now back out. They did have Baron buff, but it's completely gone now. So Amazon really wasn't able to fully capitalize on that lead, but you got to remember they do have a 10,000 gold lead, and we are getting 40 minutes into the game. Usually when you have that much of a lead, especially at this point, you can kind of really force fights and force the game to just go, in your favor and just force wins onto this one. But Amazon really isn't capitalizing on any of the big moments that they have just yet. So the longer this game goes on, the more actually that Epic is going to start to farm up as well. Because you got to remember with the gold mechanics, the longer this game goes on, Epic is going to start to catch up, and they might have a 10,000 gold deficit. But if everyone has all the items that they need, and Amazon, or if everyone kind of is 5 or 6 items, that the gold difference doesn't much matter because it's not money that you're spending straight up. You can buy the elixirs and give yourself a little bit of a boost. You can buy oracles and give yourself that, map control, but that's kind of all you can really do. So the longer this game goes on, the more Epic might have a chance onto this one, but we're seeing how this one goes just yet. Bottom lane, though, Black Mamba and DJC once again trading this one out, and he's just putting a lot of pressure onto this one. He does have his Banshee's Veil, so Vlad is actually not really chunking too much of the health just yet. Now that it is a 4v4 up in the top lane, Laser comes out from Lux to try to hit onto anyone, but it just barely misses all of Epic, and top lane turret goes down now. So once again, Amazon's just kind of taking turrets out when they can, but they're not really... There's just so much going on in this game, but it looks like, okay, Baron's now come back up, and Amazon's working towards this Baron, and no one from Epic is even close to either steal it or try to stop this fight from coming out. They're just completely giving it up. I don't think they even knew that it was back up just yet, but Baron Nashor is now going to go down. This is the second one for Amazon. It's now 62,400 gold to 50,600. 10 kills to 40 minutes and 45 seconds into the game. It looks like they're going to get Dragon as well. Now, at this point in the game, getting Dragons is sort of... I wouldn't say it's not useful, but the thing is that they need to make sure, and yeah, they're doing just that, but they need to make sure they back and use the dragon money, because the longer this game goes on, if they're not just using the money that they're getting from these advantages, they're not really getting anywhere with, taking objectives like that. They're kind of giving Epic just the amount of time that they need to get themselves back into the game, but now that they use both the Baron money as well as the Dragon money, and they've got the Baron buff fresh out on this one. Lux is actually 5 items. Lux does have the Lich Bane as well, so they've got a pretty solid setup here. They could force a 4-on-5 or a 5v5 fight from Epic, and they could use that Singe teleport to sort of split that one up and get their advantage. But, I mean, they've got to force something here. The fact of the matter is that Amazon has to force something here if they want to win the fight now. And remember, this is a best of 3, so they got to remember that they've not only got to play this one out, but they've got to play the next one. And if it goes on to game 3, and each of these games are 42 minutes long, during game 3, you might be having a bit of trouble. But the teleport comes out from Singe, and they're going straight for the mid lane. DJC comes out with the home guard boots, just completely goes in straight into Epic's team, pulls someone out. Vladimir gets completely focused down on Raffles, goes down to a Lux ultimate, and the mid lane inhibitor is going to go down, and it looks like Amazon might win this game out, and it is 3 people just holding off at the next turrets. I don't think Epic is going to be able to hold this one off. Anomaly just goes in straight to hold something out. Kale ulti comes out just to keep Anomaly alive at the right time, but they both go down as soon as that one's up, and Aquarius gets focused down as well. A double kill comes out under Shana, and Amazon is going to go on to win game number 1 of the semifinals for the After Hours Gaming League. We are going to start with game 2 of Amazon versus Epic in just a minute. Do not go anywhere to check this out. Once again, thanks for tuning in so far. My name is In Sigma Theory, and I will see you guys in the next game.